All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a great question and answer episode for you today. We're going to be talking about things you should consider as you get your kids into weightlifting. We're going to talk about that grittiness you get with creatine sometimes and what to do about it, how to structure your training if you're only working out 2 days per week, setting your calories for fat loss, how we stay fit when we can't lift heavy when we're traveling in our camper, as we are now, if you can see this on YouTube, and whether or not we think that coaches should be in shape or not. So a lot of things to get to. As I mentioned, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see from our view that we are traveling. We're headed up to North Texas to go visit my dad for a couple days. So here we are, loaded up in the big guy. The dogs are already passed out on the couch because we've gotten 2 walks in today. But yeah, I'm thankful that we have this mobile headquarters on wheels.
Definitely.
To be able to go do things like this. You ready to get into these questions?
All right, let's go.
Let's roll.
First one. What are 5 foundational movements that kids should learn pre-weightlifting?
Good question. This was sent in by one of our clients who's got kids, right?
Yeah. This is a great question. And I would say that there are not like any specific foundational movements that they need to learn before weightlifting or before touching weights. I think that they need to learn the foundations of each movement and how to move their bodies in space with and without equipment. Just like adults do, so I would definitely, just like what we would with an adult, like make sure that they can squat with no weight and all the mechanics are there. And then we would start with like, even, for kids, when I'm in the gym, kids would come and work out with their parents all the time in the class, and I would just find something for them to hold. I mean, it could have been a soccer ball, have them doing goblet spots with, with a soccer ball and with a 5-pound plate and things like that, and then when we move on to things like deadlifting, I had PVC pipes, like let the kids go through the motions and learn the foundations of the deadlift, make sure that they understand, how to, keep their back straight and, how to stay, how to maintain form as they're moving an object, and then you let them hold like dumbbells and things like that. I mean, a kid could even learn how to do a complicated advanced movement like a snatch, as long as they're doing it with a PVC pipe and they learn the foundations as they move along before they add weight.
So it's more about each individual exercise and the correct way to do it, rather than picking a list and mastering each one before you start loading up a weight.
Yeah.
And then, like, they even sell those little kids' weight sets that really don't weigh anything, so they can start to understand, like, what holding equipment might feel like.
Yeah, and then, holding 1 and 2 pounds are not going to get hurt. Even my nieces and nephews have little, like, 2-pounders, and they'll, like, press, and it's not the best press in the world, but they're doing it, and they're mimicking the parents, and that's really, what's important. And as they go along, they're going to learn those foundational movement, learn the foundations of each movement before adding weight, just like an adult would.
Yeah. And keeping it as fun as possible in the process, too, because that's the only way a kid's going to stick with it. If they feel like they're playing.
Yeah.
And then move them on to training eventually, but play first. Good one.
All right,
what's next?
When I mix creatine into my drink, there's always little particles at the bottom that are hard to swallow. Any tips?
I think what they're talking about is that sandy, gritty texture at the bottom. It's like creatine doesn't completely dissolve in liquid. Usually it kind of settles a little bit. Most of it dissolves, but there's always a little bit left at the bottom, and that can be a struggle.
Okay.
I would say my first suggestion is to, unless you just bought this creatine and you have a ton of it left, try a different brand. Make sure it's micronized, and just see if it's the particular brand that you bought that's not dissolving.
Do you have that issue?
A little bit, but it's even within the brand that I consistently buy, it's different from bag to bag. So I think like it just depends on the batch sometimes. But I have had brands where I didn't notice it at all back when I used to buy it. Back when creatine was like super cheap and it didn't really matter if you price shop for it.
Right.
I've had ones that did dissolve better than others. Now I'm just using the bulk supplements brand off Amazon, and I just live with a little bit that doesn't dissolve in the bottom.
Okay.
Usually, like, I'll put it in my first 30-ounce bottle of water for the day, and I'll refill that before it gets completely down to the bottom. So putting more liquid into the bottle gives it more of a chance to dissolve. So sometimes that'll help out. But if it doesn't work out for you, I would just try mixing it into a food, a creamy type food like yogurt, cottage cheese, a hot oatmeal or something like that. And you probably won't notice it in there either.
Okay.
And if you absolutely can't get it to dissolve, they now make creatine in a lot of different other forms. Pill form, gummy form.
Whoa.
It's going to be more expensive to do it that way.
Yeah.
And if you go the pill route, you're going to be taking a lot of pills because the recommended dose for creatine is between 3 and 5 grams per
Okay.
day. And that takes a lot of pills. Like you might have to take 8 to 10 pills to get up to
Oh,
5 grams.
okay.
So anyway, I would try those things first, mix it into
Yeah,
some.
try to mix the mixings first. When you said you mix yours in with water, you don't just put it in with water. You add like a water flavor or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Because so you're not just doing creatine and water. You're doing creatine, water, and a water flavor.
Yeah.
So you're not tasting it.
Yeah, by itself, it doesn't have any taste that
Yeah.
that I can come across.
But it might have like a.
It definitely get a little
texture.
sandy at the bottom there. So give that a try.
Okay. Nice. All right. I've worked out 3 days per week for a long time, but lately I've only been able to do 2 times per week consistently. What kind of training split do you recommend for 2 times per week? Great question.
Yep.
I would recommend definitely doing, if you're only able to hit twice a week, doing 2 full body days per week. And when you do those 2 full body weight days, of course, you're going to, need to do full body days and need to do all the things. But the way you can split it up is to say like on your day 1 is you're going to do a heavy squat. And then you're going to do maybe like a hinge with dumbbells or a lighter hinge, like an RDL. Then you're going to do your heavy press, like a barbell press, and then you're going to do your bench with like dumbbells, like a close grip dumbbell bench, something like that. And then on the opposite day, it would be your heavy deadlift, and then a squat, like a lighter squat or a more volume squat, like a front squat or a dumbbell front squat, your heavy bench, and then your like Arnold presses or some sort of pressing with dumbbells.
Yeah.
So that you're not doing all 4 lifts both days, but you are doing all 4 lifts in a variation of all 4 lifts.
Yeah. And you're hitting each lift twice per week with a higher weight, like harder effort,
Yeah.
and then a lighter weight, higher intensity, more volume oriented over the course
Yeah.
of the whole week.
In addition to that, then you're going to, 2 to 3 of your like bodybuilding type movements. And you might even have to start dipping into like 4 and 5 sets if you're only going to hit this twice a week.
Yeah. I think it's realistic to go into it with the expectation that if you're only doing 2 full body days per week and you really want to maintain or make progress, they're going to be some pretty long
It might be like a
workouts.
90-minute workout. Yeah.
Right. There's a trade-off to be made somewhere. And like look at your total volume in the program that you build out and make sure you're getting, between 10 and 20 hard sets per muscle group. And you can still make progress with that.
Yeah.
But this approach, this minimalist approach really requires a lot of consistency. Like missing a workout day on a 2-day per week program is a 50% decrease in training volume. And that's enough to stop progress. So keep that in mind that consistency goes up the fewer days that you want to work out per week.
Yeah. All right. Next question. I used MyFitnessPal to set my calories for fat loss, and it gave me 1,300 calories with 50 carbs, 20 protein, and 30 fat.
Those are percentages.
Yeah, sorry. This sounds off. What do you think? I'm 5'3", 160 pounds, trying to lose 25 pounds.
Yeah, I would say that sounds off.
Sounds low.
That's the danger of using some of these apps to set your calories for you. And I'm really not a big fan of, using generic, recommendations that don't have to do with what your goal is. And I'm really not a fan of using percentage-based splits for breaking your calories out across the macros. I think I'm using a gram equation, using the calories per gram that equal up to how many calories you're trying to eat is a better way to do it than just using percentage-based things. And it doesn't take any extra effort.
Well, the
really.
only issue with MyFitnessPal is you can't get the grams if you don't have
The
the
premium.
premium version. So
Right.
you can get close enough with the percents if you figure
Yeah,
out the
if you-
grams.
there is a
if you want
workaround.
to keep the free version.
But
yeah.
most people don't have a coach or don't know any better. So
Yeah.
they're just downloading MyFitnessPal. They're putting in their goal weight when they
Yeah.
want to reach it by. And that's probably what this person did. It set them up a really aggressive calorie deficit. I went in,
Well, that's what I was going to say. We've seen this happen before with people, and it's like if you put in immediately, I want to lose 25 pounds into the thing, it's going to give you a very aggressive. It's not taking in human, it's not thinking of like, how is this really going to happen? It's just like, here's the calculation.
Right.
So an easier way to do it would be to put in, if you just had the MyFitnessPal to go by and you didn't have a coach or you didn't have asked this question on a podcast, and we're going to get the answer in a second, but you could put, I want to lose 5 pounds
Yeah.
and let it give you that calculation. And then once that happens, I want to lose 5 pounds. And that way you are tricking the machine to stair step you down into those calories
Right.
and not jumping you down all at once.
yeah. Okay, so the 1300 is ridiculous. I used our calculator that we put together in our calorie and macronutrient guide. I'll put a link to that in the show notes for this episode. Our calorie calculator came up with eating about 1800 calories per day, and you really don't even have to nail that 1800 every day. We tell our clients that getting within plus or minus of 100 calories of your goal over the course of the week is plenty consistent enough to expect to get good results. The problem with 1300 calories is, yes, you will be able to stick with that a little bit in the beginning. And yes, most people can white knuckle their way through really low calories like that. But eventually you're going to start to feel the effects of not having that fuel in your body, meaning you're going to have no energy. Your hunger is just going to go through the roof after probably 7 days. And it's going to be impossible to stick with it. And so this might play out for like 7 to 10 days where you do stick with it, and then the weekend's going to come and you're going to have 2000, 2200, 2500 calories, and your average across the week is going to be more like 1800 to 2000 calories, but you're going to feel like you're failing because you're not sticking to the 1300. So a much more sustainable, realistic, and productive approach is to use a less aggressive deficit and one that you can stick with without excessive hunger. And then like and if you use our calculator, you'll get your specific numbers, but setting a target protein goal of somewhere around a gram of protein per pound that you weigh now is a good place to start. And then if you don't even want to mess with figuring out how many grams of carbs and fat to use, research shows that as long as protein and calories are equated, your results in fat loss will be the same without hitting a specific number of grams of carbs and fat. So take the pressure off yourself.
Okay.
And, think about a more sustainable approach is probably going to have you losing it closer to a half a pound per week. I'm just telling you the honest truth here. So if your goal is to lose about 25 pounds, you're looking at about a year-long journey to lose that 25 pounds, which might sound awful, but I have a feeling you probably, added that 25 pounds over the course of about the same amount of time, if not longer. So you can do it. Take the smart approach and reach out if you need help.
All right, next one. How do you guys lift heavy when you're traveling in your camper? Good timing on this question.
Yeah.
So I think we learned a lot when we went on that longer trip. We went out for like three to 4 weeks, and we found campsites with gym memberships with a real live gyms with like real weights or we sought those out. In the past we've just like right now we're just traveling up to see his dad where we did our lifting a couple days before we left. We brought dumbbells with us, and we're going to do like dumbbell workouts and conditioning. We're still going to get our workouts in. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to be fine for shorter trips like this. But I think we did learn a lesson when we were on that longer trip that we are going to have to like play it smart when we go out for these longer trips to get a gym membership like Anytime Fitness or Planet Fitness or something that we can pop into where, campsites with real gyms.
Yeah, we try to like you said, we try to do as much lifting on the day that we leave if we can, unless we're going to leave early in the morning. So boom, that's already done. We're even if we aren't able to lift heavy for 2 or 3 days after that, while we're actually traveling and stopping every night, we're not going a long time without touching a heavy weight.
And I think like just like he said, like yesterday we drove out here, and it's not a long drive to get to where we are, and so we did our workout, we did our heavy lifts, we did our conditioning, we went for a long walk with the dogs. By the time we left the house, we were at like 12,000 steps or something, and so when we sat in the car and drove, and then when we got here, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I gotta move. And I think that like kind of mixing those things, even like today we have a lot of work to do. We recorded the first podcast, took the dogs for a walk, did a bunch of work sitting, take the dogs for work. We're just trying to like mix staying active with the work and the there's more sitting definitely when we're in the camper.
Yeah.
And so I'm still trying to get used to that piece.
And like, we may change our goal too during an extended trip. Like maybe when we know we're not going to have access to barbells, our goal is to like work on our endurance more and go out for runs, that kind of stuff. And like, just kind of redefining what does it mean to lift heavy. Like, for me to lift heavy, because I've been doing this for a long time, means, doing back squats with between 200 and 300 pounds, doing deadlifts with between 300 and 400 pounds. That's not always going to happen
with dumbbells
when I travel. But like, lifting heavy doesn't have to mean those numbers. We like to think about lifting heavy as the effort level that you're putting into whatever you're doing. Like doing a deliberate set of something where you are pushing yourself close to the most that you can do. That's really the definition of heavy lifting. Like somebody can get in great shape, build tons of muscle, look like an athlete, and be lifting heavy, but never touch a weight like I just described. They can do it with, a female could do that with between 20 and 50 pound dumbbells probably for several years, because they're choosing weights and rep ranges for different exercises that push them close to that failure.
Yeah.
So you can still lift heavy even while you're traveling with minimal equipment. It's about the effort that you're putting in.
You can still lift with intensity. You
Right.
might not be, like you said, we have the heaviest we have is 225 pound dumbbells with us. You're not going to be lifting heavy
right.
by any means if you squatted or deadlifted that weight, but you can add intensity into your workout today with those 25 pound dumbbells.
So let's say like, if I'm normally curling like an 80 pound barbell and all we have is these 25 pound dumbbells. Well, what if I do sets of 21s curls with those 25 pound dumbbells? That's adding a lot of intensity, longer time under tension. That's going to be, quote, heavy lifting for me. That's definitely not going to be a regression in progress.
And what if
sure.
in those 3 sets, like set 1 and 2 was fairly easy, even with the 25s, you could shorten the rest period between those two to even add more intensity to those sets.
Yeah. Or if I'm doing like a set of overhead tricep extensions, maybe 25 isn't very heavy for me, but I get to the point where I'm feeling a lot of fatigue and then I immediately drop down and do a set of diamond push-ups.
Yeah.
Now I'm using interference between similar muscle groups to still, quote, lift heavy by causing more intensity and not losing any progress. So there are definitely workarounds to when you don't have access to heavy weights. It's getting warm in here with that AC off, I've got to tell you. Did we answer that one pretty good?
I think so.
All right. Last one, right?
All right. No, last one, yeah. Do you think that coaches should be in shape?
We could go on this one for a long time, I think. I mean, for me, the bottom line is yes. I think that coaches should be in shape, or asterisks, they should be well into their journey and still making progress to get in shape. I mean, the bottom line is like, you're doing this as a profession. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't go professionally pay somebody to help you with your finances if they were struggling or regressing in their own management of their own personal finances. Like I think you need to be living the lifestyle that you're selling to somebody else to prove this is a doable thing, and I know how to make it work within the constraints of your life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, and I agree. I think coaches should be practicing what they're selling, practicing what they're preaching to their clients.
Yeah.
If we were doing what we do now for our fitness and nutrition, but trying to sell something else that was really hard and unsustainable, and we weren't doing it ourselves, then I would not ever hire us, because if it's not even doable for the coach, if it's not even doable for the person selling it, then and why do they think it's doable for the public?
I also think that if you don't live the life that you're trying to preach and sell to your clients and help them achieve, you're going to have some really internal conflict going on in you. There's like this dissonance between what you say your client should be doing, or your prospective clients, and what you're actually doing. That's going to wear you down and cause you to burn out pretty quickly, because you're feeling like out of alignment.
Yeah, and you won't actually know. Writing the workouts and stuff, I like to feel what these workouts feel like, and I also I can say okay, doing workouts like this can do this A, B, C, D for you. It can improve your endurance. It can improve your mindset. And I wouldn't be able to say the things that I say about the way that we train people if I didn't do it myself.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Came on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I owned the gym, the CrossFit gym, I did struggle with when I first started owning the gym, I struggled with feeling like I had to be the fastest and the best athlete in the room, and that is absolutely not true. I did not need to beat everybody's time and score on the board on the workouts. I did not need to lift the heaviest, and that's not the role of the coach, is to be the best athlete.
Right.
But the role of the coach is to be doing the things that they're telling their people to do. That's
a good point. It's not about only hire coaches who are shredded or at the pinnacle of fitness and living a life out of balance, or they're on drugs that enhance their visual results or anything like that. It's not about that. It's like you don't a coach shouldn't have to be the best, but they should be willing to live the lifestyle that they're selling to somebody else and setting an example. And I think like of all the evils of social media, like at least the fact that we're able to post snippets of our real life in Instagram, like,
and that's
hopefully
really
shows like that we are living that lifestyle. But like also like no, even us, like we don't share everything about our life. Like there's boundaries of what we share in Instagram and like that kind of stuff. So even though like that everybody is like what's the right way to say this, like Instagram, social media, regardless, is still a highlight reel of somebody's life. So don't hire somebody just based on them showing you like perfect meals every single day in their Instagram feed.
I think we all have been around social media long enough to realize that the things that we see are not the only things that are happening in someone's life.
I think we logically know that, but sometimes
sometimes it's hard to like be like, oh wait, look how they eat. I could eat that, like or whatever. And
right.
Anyway.
Okay, that's
on that one a little bit.
That's a good question. I've talked with other coaches a lot about that. Okay, the air conditioning kicked on in the camper here, so that's our cue to wrap this episode up. Hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. If you ever want to get a question in the queue for us to answer, just send us a message on Instagram. If you need personal help with your exercise, your training, your nutrition, I'll put a link for how you can apply for coaching in the show notes of this episode. All right, you guys have a great day.